Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's great to see you. This is a general collective reading. There are no signs attached to it, so only take it if it resonates with you. Otherwise, just leave it. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story, actually. This morning, I I had a strange dream, and I woke up feeling strange, is just how I'm gonna put it, because of the dream that was extremely vivid, but at the same time didn't feel like it was my dream, if that makes any sense at all. Like, it didn't feel like it was, like I was dreaming it, but it wasn't my dream, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I went on a walk just to clear my head, because it was leaving me very confused. I went on this walk in this very wealthy neighborhood just north of where I live. There are huge houses there. Like, the houses there are huge. And I walked down this one street. It was so strange. On one side of the street were these huge marble mansions, is how I would describe them. All custom built, beautiful, perfectly manicured lawns. Everything was just so ordered and structured. And then on the other side of the street, literally along the same road, the other side was sort of the original houses on the lot. So they were a bit older. The houses themselves were smaller, more bungalow kind of things, bigger lawns. The gardens were, of course, less, they weren't done professionally, is how I'm going to put it. Which was so interesting, because I'm used to seeing both of those types of houses, but not along the same street, if that makes sense. And there was a very clear sort of divide that I found very strange about. It wasn't they were mixed in sort of randomly. It was very clearly that side of the street was the marble mansions. The other side were sort of the original cozy cottages, is how I'm gonna put it. Anyways, because in that neighborhood, normally there's a little bit more of a diverse mix of houses. It's not just one or the other. There's a mix. There's a range. And I found that street to just be very strange. Anyway, it was bringing up a lot of emotion that I'm not going to get into unless it comes out in the cards. But the message that wants to come through with that example is that I feel like maybe there's sort of it could be distorted reflections, or mirroring in a way where it's strengths and weaknesses are being highlighted in a way that is not necessarily helpful or accurate, is kind of how it's coming through. Because the way that I was, the intuitive message that I was receiving about that, the dream and then that experience with the houses, was that someone was seeing me as being sort of the marble mansion. When I walk down that street, I resonate more with sort of the cottage energy. Anyways, that's just an example. I feel like that maybe the interpretation is a bit off there. It's kind of coming through as being maybe you are seeing someone in a particular light that is opposite to you, when in fact they may be seeing you that way, is kind of coming through like that. Or you may see yourself differently than how somebody else sees you, that kind of thing. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to pull cards and see just like what wants to come through. It's also not like a judgment on like this is good, this is bad, right? Everyone has their own taste, everyone has their own preferences. And it's also impossible to like free yourself from bias as well. Like everyone has an opinion is kind of how it's coming through. It's kind of just like if there are sort of differences in opinions as well that become like you can't anyways, no, I'm just gonna leave that. Okay, so yeah, okay. The shadow and the womb. Interesting. Okay, the womb is coming in as like the origin story. It also kind of comes through as being like, because it is coming in with sort of like the example of wealth, right? And abundance. Like maybe we're talking about sort of like differences in that aspect. Like maybe, hold on. Let's read what the womb says, because it's kind of coming through with sort of like abundance from your mother is how it's coming through. Like what, which could have caused a shadow aspect as well. It may even go as far back as your grandmother, because I saw somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but like if you're healing mother wounds, sometimes you have to go all the way to the grandmother on your mother's side because of like the way that eggs work, right? Like women are born with all of the eggs that they're going to have, even when they're sort of a fetus in their mothers. So you were, an aspect of you was received energy or input beginning from your grandmother, if that makes sense. Anyways, I don't know where that's going. The shadow I've been talking about a lot recently, about sort of like an aspect of self that comes online in order to protect ourselves. So being aware of that as well, like how your shadow might protect you, perhaps from some sort of wounding that you might have that may go back a couple generations. The nest, the belly, the origin. Everything has an origin story. The womb archetype asks us to contemplate the beginning beyond the beginning, the mother beyond the mother. In a world that often negates the power and necessity of feminine principles, this card returns us to the warmth, tenderness, and sacred intelligence from which we came. It is a card of receiving, not achieving, of accepting love from the mother of us all. She is the life-giving force that forgives and cherishes even the most wounded and disparate soul. No matter how lost you are, the womb awaits your return to help you heal and grow. This card is a call to keep things simple, to return, to be reborn in the name of love. The womb is everywhere. It is beyond gender, beyond time. We are within it as it is within us. Consider that Mother Earth must also have a mother. Interesting. So it is coming through with nourishment, like nourishment and warmth. Perhaps there's a shadow aspect that was formed from a lack of nourishment in whatever way or aspect or area of your life that was. And you may be trying to heal that or integrate that aspect within yourself at the moment. Because it is sort of talking, so it could be generational. I don't want to use the word trauma, but it could be generational sort of like wounding that's been passed down, especially on the mother or feminine energy side, is how it's coming through. That is sort of like there's a shadow aspect that wants to be integrated, right? And again, the shadow is not coming out as being sort of like a negative thing, because everybody has a shadow. And if there's any sort of judgment as well, because now I'm seeing this as being sort of like the two sides of the street that I was walking on, right? The pristine marble and the cottages. I'm just going to describe it like that. I don't want to put any judgment on that as well, because there's a separation is how it's coming through. When it shouldn't be separate, it's kind of like it's both. It's both and is kind of how it's coming through. Because I feel like the feeling strange or the weirdness is sort of like a feeling separate from an aspect of self, or feeling angry or frustrated towards an aspect of self, especially if that was something that was perhaps even something that was like, why am I struggling with my words in this? Hold on. It could be something like an opinion, right? That was passed down from generations, right? Like, for example, like if your mother was not strict or very strict, depending on your like how you were raised. This is such a tricky topic, so I'm being very cautious and careful because it can be very triggering to discuss these things. It could be that, and maybe that was never sort of like an aspect of yourself that resonated with you, but because it came from your mother, or because it was something that was like taught to you, it could be hard to break those patterns, right? I feel like the shadow is coming in here to be sort of like trying to bring those two separate aspects of self together, right? The marble and the cottage, that kind of thing, bring it together. Or at least not like having less of a divide between those two energies. The dead end. I knew I was going to see this card because that street that I was walking on was a dead end. I thought it would lead back into the neighborhood, but it didn't. And so I had to turn around, which was part of the story. I had to turn around. And so now the energy was flipped, right? It's kind of like the houses were now on the opposite side because I turned around. So maybe there is something about that as well, of like taking a different perspective on how you see yourself and how you're seeing others, because it might be flipped, is how it's coming through. Dead ends are extremely helpful in getting us to turn around, right? To like go a different way than what you intended. Perhaps to see a different perspective, right? Like if you're... It's like you have to flip it. You have to flip it. That's just how I'm just going to leave that. Okay, so I'm going to pull one more card. Like flip the perspective from what you're seeing. Oh my goodness. Okay, okay, so you have here the one card. This is the sort of unity consciousness, right? Like bringing these two aspects together into one, right? That's where sort of like the wholeness comes in. Then you have here the Father, Anima Mundi, this way, and the Venom, which is really interesting. The Father that's also showing a divide though, isn't it? The river at the bottom of the deck, which talks about forgiveness. Okay, so I feel like there may be sort of like with the Venom energy, that can be a tough card. But the Anima Mundi talks about like not rejecting anything, right? It talks about accepting all, because it could be that it's accepting all. There's no right or wrong here. There's no this or that. It's both. It's everything. It's all. As well as the Venom, which is interesting. It's like that's the card that I feel like there's resistance about that. So it could be, especially if there was any sort of like difficulty or toxicity from a father figure as well. That could also be sort of like don't reject that aspect of yourself. Right? You also have to accept that aspect of yourself as well. I was kind of feeling something like somebody who perhaps like feels as if they don't deserve a certain kind of nourishment is how it's coming through, like that they're always giving instead of receiving anything. Or there may be discomfort about receiving something. It's kind of coming through as being sort of like somebody who always sees themselves as being sort of like lesser than. That sort of personality type can come off as being like very sort of self-deprecating in like a charming kind of way. Self-deprecating, like putting themselves down, perhaps in order to like make people feel more comfortable around them, right? But it may be sort of like, if you are resonating in that energy where it's like you are self-deprecating to the point to like make other people feel more comfortable, it's like I actually feel like somebody may be seeing you as a marble mansion that way. And so it's like there's a disconnect between like how somebody sees you, perhaps on a bit of a pedestal maybe, and how you would normally see yourself, which in this case I'm framing this as being sort of like somebody who sees themselves as like lesser than they are, or like is a bit more critical of self than they are of other people. If it's in the reverse, I don't know. Somebody who sees themselves as better than they are, that's a whole other issue that I don't want to get into at the moment. Could be, though, depending on what your shadow is, right? Depends on your shadow. Because both of those can be shadow aspects, right? Like somebody who thinks themselves as being sort of like better than others, or having more than others, or looking down on others even, versus somebody who only ever sees themselves from one perspective of like, everyone else is better than me because of whatever so-and-so reason, right? Interesting. It does kind of want to come through as being like accepting both aspects of yourself, because there could be even like different aspects of yourself that has one of those two perspectives, but depending on which area in your life this is, you could have one perspective or the other, if that makes sense. Anyways, I feel like I'm just like talking in circles, so I'm just gonna move on. The fairy guide. That's sort of this blank slate energy. Because actually what I was feeling when I was walking down that street with the marble mansions, this is an intrusive thought, right? I would never do this actually in real life, but I wanted to take a paintball gun, right? Like a paintball gun, and just like paint all over those houses, because it was just too perfect, and it bothered me. Like, why is it so light? Like, why is it so perfect? Anyway, that's my personal bias coming through. I'm just gonna leave it like that. You have that gnome. This card talks about like letting loose a little bit, right? It talks about like a creative chaos, right? Like, I feel like there's something about like some aspect of your life is too perfect or too structured or too like perfectly manicured, this like stoic marble mansion that no one can gain access to. And it's like I don't know if this is just sort of, I can only really do readings from my perspective, right? Like I can't force a perspective that's not mine, if that makes sense. So it's coming through like there's maybe an aspect of yourself that you've kept protected and perhaps wants to be a bit more free or chaotic, so to speak, like taking a paintball gun and just wildly creating something. Because venom with the father energy could also be like too much structure, could be really harmful, because it limits creativity, right? Like too many hard lines, too much discipline, too much like maybe too much discipline. Too much discipline is what's going through. Bodacious Bodak. This is another father energy. That's interesting. Okay, so that card talks about sort of like an unhelpful helper. This energy tries to be helpful, but actually just causes more chaos. Perhaps there is an energy like that around you that is showing you perhaps where there is a need to like let go a little bit of control. This energy can be very irritating as well. I'm gonna say it like that. If you're getting irritated by something or someone, they may be showing you where there is room for you to let go of control, is how it's coming through. Perhaps that you need to expand a little bit in terms of like being less disciplined in that area. This is not an easy message, because it does talk about discomfort. It feels like becoming comfortable, or like, I'm not going to say becoming comfortable with discomfort, but because sometimes like routine and discipline sort of make us feel safe, right? like it's predictable. We know what the outcome is going to be if we stick through this routine or whatever, that kind of thing. I feel like maybe there's room here to like embrace something unpredictable, or something that's a little bit more wild or messy, maybe. Because maybe somebody's being a bit too like selective in what's around them, is kind of how it's coming through. Singer of Intuition. That card talks to me about like about like receiving sort of like the next step in creating your future. That's sort of what I see the Singer of Intuition as. I feel like maybe somebody's blocking themselves off from that, is how it's coming through. Like they don't want to see the next step because it's unpredictable, or it's like so I don't know. It's unknown. There's like a lot of discomfort here about like taking a risk maybe on something. Like doing something that's like quote unquote wild or chaotic. I'm not encouraging anyone to do anything that's dangerous or like put yourself in danger or like anything like that, right? Some intrusive thoughts should be should remain just thoughts, like not into action. I feel like this is more so something where it's like you know what it is that you need to do, but it would break your routine, or it would throw a little bit of chaos into your steady lifestyle maybe, or it would take you out of your comfort zone in a way that just feels so uncomfortable, is just how it's coming through. Okay, the reason why the dream that I had felt so strange, I was skiing. This is how it was coming through. I was skiing, which I do know how to do, but I haven't done in a while. But it was like such a vivid experience where like I could feel every sort of like turn that I was making, again, I don't feel like this was from my perspective. I actually feel like I was seeing this from somebody else's perspective. But anyways, it felt so controlled. Like every single turn was like measured and like intentional, and like reason being in order to keep yourself from falling or slipping, right? That's sort of how it was coming through to me. Like such care in order not to like go free falling down the mountain. That's how it was coming through. And then finally reaching the bottom of the mountain. But that last step, right, was taking a step from snow into mud. And it was kind of coming through as being like somebody didn't want to go into the mud. Whatever that means metaphorically for you, there was messiness, there was mud, discomfort. It's like it wouldn't be smooth. It wouldn't be this sort of like smooth glide down the mountain. It would be messy. It's kind of coming through like that. Perhaps someone had like a control freak as a parent is how that's coming through. Someone who's a bit of a control freak. Someone who's very controlling even. I don't know if I'm gonna post this. This feels like it's very personal to someone, and I don't know if that's appropriate, but we'll see. Okay, eight of inspiration. This is what I'm saying about the like being super controlled about, like, I feel like somebody has taken like very measured steps is kind of how it's coming through, making progress, but doing it so carefully. In a way that they don't want to lose control is kind of how it's coming through, which I totally understand. That is a very valid response. I do feel though that it's causing a bit of like splitting for whatever reason, because it's like it's I feel like almost like the momentum of the situation, whatever this is, wants to be really fast, because I was seeing like a downhill slope, right? It's like if you just let go, if you didn't sort of consciously try and control every step, you would just go flying down, right? That's kind of how it's coming through. But I feel like somebody has actually taken like steps to like slow themselves down in order to feel like there's more control in a situation, which I understand. But we'll see. I feel like there may be a change in that happening. Two of Pentacles. It is feeling like a balance of some sort, like a very delicate balance. I think I did a Scorpio reading. As I say that, the Death card comes out. I think I did a Scorpio reading called A Delicate Balance. Yeah, I feel like there's a significant transition coming up ahead that will require less control. It's like you have to give up control in the next part of whatever this is. It's because it's not it's like you're about to step into the mud, whatever that is for you. It's not a bad thing, right? It's actually feeling kind of like a welcome change, right? But it's so different than what you have been in that it may feel uncomfortable at first, or just like, I'm going to use the word messy in the most loving possible way that I can. It will be messy. It's going to be messy, but fun is what's going through. Okay, 4 of Cups. Interesting. This is coming through as being sort of the energy of somebody holding themselves back, right? Like, I'm not going to go into that water because, you know, I'm happy where I am. It's like the next thing is like one more step into whatever it is that perhaps someone is avoiding. It's like, it's if you just take one more step, that's it. That's the thing. Okay. Muse of Voices. This one always looks to me like a celebration of some sorts, like an arrival of something. It's coming out under the Intuition card. So I feel like there may also be sort of like a lot of intuitive downloads that may be coming in to help you take this next step. Like it's it's trying to reassure you that whatever it is that you're trying to do or moving towards, it's like, it's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. That's all I can say. I don't know what this is though. 7 of Inspiration. It's like the light is just on the other side of whatever this step is. I feel like somebody, like the Singer of Courage didn't come out here, but I'm getting all of this energy of like somebody has been working steadily towards this threshold maybe for a while and has been holding themselves back in order to maintain some sort of control over how fast it moves. Right? And it's like, there's one more step. There's one more step. It's like, you've made it this far. There's one more step. But, but the Devil card, this is the hardest part. This is the hardest step to take. I feel like all of someone's instincts are saying no. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is an energy though. Whenever like the positions of the arms, right? And these 2 cards are significant. One's crossed and closed off. The other is open, right? It's like pushing out. I feel like it is kind of like some sort of expansion. It definitely feels like some sort of expansion, but in a way that feels like chaotic or like too fast or out of control in some way, because the Devil is also Capricorn energy, right? Which can talk about sort of like routines, structure. with the Father as well, that's also bringing in Saturn. I'm gonna just say it's structure, routines maybe, or just like patterns. It could even just be like patterns within self. Everything is saying no. All of the patterns within self are rejecting this step. It is scary. There's a lot of like it feels like taking a really big step. One that perhaps like someone has not done before in this way. Like perhaps you've gotten close to it but never sort of like stepped over that threshold, whatever that is for you. Okay, so you have here the Hanged Muse, the Six of Voices, and the Page of Voices. I feel like this is talking about getting a new perspective on something. Because I actually feel like with the Hanged Muse, it is kind of feeling like letting go of control of like how... metaphorically, right? Like metaphorically... releasing control about like how fast the situation is going to go. I don't know why it's coming through like that. I feel like because I was just seeing like the ski hill, but someone didn't want to go fast. They were trying to like control the speed. It kind of feels like that. It feels like trying to avoid a free fall as well. I actually feel though that like part of the reason why it might feel like part of why the momentum of a situation might feel fast is kind of coming through like with the Six of Voices. Sometimes doing like if you're afraid of doing something, I feel like this is bad advice, but if you're afraid of doing something, sometimes doing it quickly, just like getting it over with kind of thing, is the best course of action. Again, only take that if it resonates. You're responsible for your own choices and all of that. But that's how it's looking to me. Like it was supposed to be fast for a reason. It's a downhill slope, right? It's like that you're supposed to go down fast, if that makes sense. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Pulled like 2 more cards. King of Fire. This is a challenge. It does feel kind of like, so sometimes I see this King of Fire as being like and now I'm kind of seeing like Pam in The Office when she does the burning coal walk, right? She like walks across the burning coals. You're not supposed to do that slowly, if that makes sense. You're supposed to just run across it. That's how I'm seeing this. It feels like it has to be something that like you requires a lot of momentum. Like you have to just like go for it is kind of how it's coming through. I do feel that it's going to take some courage. Maybe somebody has like because it's kind of like if you're like riding a bike, right? Or let's stick with the ski example, right? It's like I almost feel like somebody even slowed down their own momentum in order to feel more control about the situation. But it's like that momentum was actually necessary to get you past that last step. I'm not saying that it's impossible now. I'm saying that it's like it will require a significant amount of energy is kind of how it's coming through in order to cross that last step now, because the momentum perhaps was lost or controlled is how it's coming through. Perhaps the momentum slowed down a little bit. Anyway, I do feel like the point of this message is that, like, there's something that is meant to move quickly, is just how I'm going to put it. But someone may be resisting that. Sound of voices. This card. Okay, it is feeling kind of like there are illusions, right? There's fear. There's uncertainty. It's like, is this the right thing to do? Is it not? Perhaps fear of trickery as well, like fear of illusions. It's like maybe you're trying to see the illusion in something. Like you're trying to like figure out if there's been any sort of deception. The Tower, Justice, Ace of Pentacles, Nine of Wands. You just got to step through and do the thing, whatever it is that you're being asked to do. I feel like it's almost like don't overthink it. Maybe just like get it over with. Or like, don't overthink it. I know that's so hard. It's like, it doesn't have to be sort of like this whole mental gymnastics. It's like you can just walk through the door is how it's coming through. Just walk through the door, whatever that is for you. Or take the next step, whatever that is for you as well. Two of Inspiration, and you also have Teom at the bottom of the deck, and Las Guna, because it does feel like someone's waiting, like they're not like taking the next step or waiting for the right time or something. It's kind of like it feels like this needs to be sort of like a direct approach. It's time to do that thing that you've been avoiding, maybe. Okay, anyways. I'm gonna pull one more card from the Sacred Forest. This is feeling like a new beginning. But that the new beginning of this feels like it's you're being confronted with a lot of your fears. Bear Spirit Healing. This was the snowy mountain that you're skiing down. And then you have Pine Spirit, Purification. and the rainbow waterfall miracles. It's like all of the snow is turning into water, right? You have all of this like snowy energy that's sort of turning into water. And because of the water, there's also mud. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Frog Spirit renewal at the bottom of the deck. It is a renewal. It's like the lotus only grows in mud, right? You need the mud. So I'm gonna leave it there. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.